Hi, I'm Dennis with TeraFlex, and today we're going to install TeraFlex's new Transit mud flap kit. This is an install video that I know a lot of people have been waiting for due to the technical nature of the install. I'm going to walk you through it so that I think most of us will be able to do this install. I'm going to say give yourself 15 minutes and you should be able to get it done. But I'll be using power tools, so it may take you 20. Let's start out before we get going and just talk about some of the features of this mud flap kit. This is the bracket that we're going to use to mount the actual flap kit. Let's just do a real quick look at how that's going to work. Okay, so you've got this bracket that's going to mount, and you're going to have it facing to the front of the Jeep, actually, when you install it. And this little bracket on here, which is an extruded aluminum piece that acts as the support for the mud flap, just indexes into that tab and just pushes in, and once it's installed, then you just wind your knob in. That's like, I'll show you the threaded end is going to index into a nut inside of there, and that's what's going to hold it into place. So put that in, wind it in, that tightens it all up. So what you're going to be able to do with this is, because of the adjustments in this slot, you'll be able to position the mud flap how you want it to be as far as height and as far as angle. So it's a real easy install. This stuff is really tough. It's actually a plastic mount here, but I've been wheeling with my mud flaps in place, out doing some snow wheeling. And you know how you get a little stuck sometimes and you back up and you're working them. I mangled it up pretty hard, but didn't hurt anything on the flap at all. The worst thing I ever did was getting this bracket to get a little bit of a bend into it so that when it was sitting on my Jeep, it had a little bit of a sag to it. Just undid the two bolts, straightened my bracket back up, bolted it back up. I was good to go, and looking fine once again. So let's look at this extruded piece up here holding it. This is really kind of a neat design. They've got this tab on the mud flap, and it pushes against that little runner that you saw that was indexing into the other bracket. And so that when you try to rotate this flap, that tab hits on that, so that if you're going down the road and it's trying to blow back, no can do, because that tab is pushing against there and doesn't let it move. But it does let it flex enough so that we actually put another stop in here, so that as we're moving this, you can see that tries to move. If you really get all over it and mangle this thing up against a rock or bury it in mud, whatever, it'll finally stop right there. But the only way we've been able to really completely bring one to its knees is to back it right up against a rock and then just keep driving until we sucked it clear into the tire and ripped it off. I mean, they're amazingly tough. Which brings us to another feature of the flap. You look at this mud flap and you say, yeah, that's cool. That's going to work. It's going to be a mud flap that's going to be functional, and it's going to, I hate mud flaps, okay? We all do. But we also want to be compliant. Compliance is something that I think each and every one of us strives for in each of our lives. So as to become compliant with all of the state and local regulations in regards to vehicle safety, I wanted to make sure that I had a set of mud flaps on my Jeep at all times. Now, I'm proud to run a mud flap on my Jeep. It looks good, and I'm in compliance as well. All right. There's been a lot of people have made some comments about some of the other ways you could use these mud flaps. One of the things that I saw in there that was really impressive to me, that I thought was a great idea, is the mud flap could also be used as a welding helmet, which gives you your vision through there and protects you there. This mud flap could also be used as a shovel, and I demonstrated that when I was up snow wheeling the other day. I pulled my flap out. I was buried in snow. I used it as a shovel and was able to clear the area out. That's versatility. Another one. What if I was stuck? I couldn't get my Jeep out and I needed to walk out. I would simply undo my mud flap, put it on the ground, and the depending on the size of your freaking shoe, mine's a little large to fit through the hole, but you can easily tie that to your foot and you've got yourself a snowshoe. How many times have you wished you had a snowshoe with you? Well, you do with TeraFlex's new Transit mud flap kit. Well, you've been out there, you've been wheeling all day, it's been fun. You've been out there, you're up to the top of the hill, the kids are like, Dad, I want to ride down on the sleigh. You forgot your sleigh. Not a problem. The Transit mud flap kit once again comes to the rescue. That is the best butt sled you'll ever find. You just put that little guy down there, plant your area where you seat into this area, and away you go. It acts as a sled. It gives you the natural bevel in the front to keep you planing, gives you a nice smooth surface, and gives you that jet feeling as you come across the top. So it'll skim across the snow with smooth control that I think the kids are going to love. So there's a lot of ways we can use these mud flaps, but I think I've talked about enough about some of the versatility here. Let's just get right into the install. You're going to need to get out your tools because you're going to need a 16 millimeter. If you don't have a 16 millimeter, well, just use a 5/8. You got a 5/8, right? Okay, end wrench or sockets, all it's going to take. What you're going to do, you come right down here, there's 2 bumper bolts. They're located on the frame. I'm going to use power tools because that's the kind of guy I am. I'm just going to run those out. Okay, 2 5/8 bolts removed. Now I'm going to locate the bracket that came with our kit, and I'm going to angle it forward because if you had the wrong bracket on, you'd be trying to install it back here. It's pretty self-evident. So we're going to just sort of just position it in here how we'd like it to be. You just start the bolts in there. Your significant other is going to be so impressed with the way you're able to do a self-install. Okay, I'm going to just, before I tighten them, I'm just going to throw the flap in there just so I have an idea of how I want it to angle. So it's going to depend. Am I looking for that speed look, like I'm going down the road at high rates of speed all the time? Or am I looking for a more traditional mud flap look where vertically, up and down? I'm going to just, one of the things I like to do is get them as high as I can so that they're up against here. So I'm going to go for as much height as I can get and still give myself a little bit of little room right here so that I'm not slamming into the tire. And this big old tire, this thing's that's a pretty obnoxious set of tread on there. These directionals, they flat throw some snow. So I think there's going to be a lot of happy people out there on the roads to see this particular Jeep with mud flaps. Once I have it positioned where I think I'd like it to be, I just quick tighten those up. And then I'll do my tighten here. Just show you how this works a little bit. Wind that in. We've also, sometimes you'll be out there and it might be cold and you're not thinking completely clearly and you don't remember which way to turn. Well, we put a little knob on there that says tight so you can see which way to turn this knob to tighten the mud flap in. Okay, once the L thread is tightened in there, you feel it pulled in. And there it is. There's little O-rings in here so that when you tighten these in, it won't back out on you. It's going to keep it tight. So there you go. I really feel like there's something else we ought to do. I mean, nothing's that easy to install, except maybe the new TeraFlex Transit mud flap kit. I'm Dennis with TeraFlex. I'll see you next time.